What is up, people? It is your best friend in the whole wide world, Snaggle J here, and it has been a hot minute since I've made a YouTube video, but I have good reason to do one today. Today, October 20th, 2021, is the 5-year anniversary of the reveal trailer for the Nintendo Switch. And I kind of did some reflecting earlier today and started going back through some of my earlier YouTube videos, and I had posted this at the time, my reaction and analysis. Look, I look literally the same now as I did 5 years ago. I have not aged at all. My lighting is a little bit better now than it was back then. But I digress. I posted a reaction and analysis video, and for those of you who were around on the channel and followed me on social media at the time, in late 2016, early 2017, in the advance of the Switch launch, I was extremely critical. Very, very critical of the Nintendo Switch. So much so that about a month before launch, I made this video. 5 reasons why I won't buy the Nintendo Switch. And that video is still on my channel. I'll link it in the description down below if you'd like to go watch it and listen to my horrible audio and see my horrible video from 5 years ago, 4.5 years ago or so. But that video still exists on the channel. And I decided today, considering that it's been 5 years since the thing was announced, I'm going to go back through the 5 reasons why I wouldn't buy it then and talk about them now. Because now, 5 years later, we have 3 Nintendo Switches in our house. We have the original one that we bought in December of 2017. So about 9 months after the Switch was released, we picked up one. It was our family Christmas gift. We also have a Switch Lite that we picked up in April 2020, right when the pandemic started, that belongs to my wife. It's primarily used to play Animal Crossing, which everybody was playing in April 2020. And we also have a Switch Rev 2, I guess. Not the new OLED, but the one they released late last year, mid last year, with the upgraded battery. Now, that is my personal Switch. So how did we get from 5 reasons why I won't buy a Nintendo Switch to owning 3 of them? Well, let's explore back the reasons why I posted this video. So the original number 1 reason was price. Price at the time, for me to pick up a Switch, get a set of Joy-Cons, a controller grip, and Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild was going to cost about $714 with tax Canadian. When you fast forward to what I ended up picking up as our original package, which was a Switch, a Pro controller, and Super Mario Odyssey, which had come out just before Christmas. It ended up being about the same price. There was not much of a reduction in price. I think we got half price on the Pro controller as part of a promotion at the time. But we ended up spending about the same amount. But I think the reason why you go from not wanting to pay that pre-launch to 9 months in being okay with it is because the landscape was different, right? Mario Odyssey was not a thing in March when the thing launched. There were countless other games that had been ported to the system or that were released on the eShop or released as third-party games at the time. So the landscape is different. You had more to do, and that's going to be covered a lot in point number 2, because point number 2 was the lack of AAA games at launch, which literally was Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which, amazing game. Can't wait for Breath of the Wild 2. But as not the biggest Zelda fanboy in the history of the world, it wasn't enough to get me to spend $700 on a console. Again, Breath of the Wild is a great game. I think it still stands up, 4+ years after it was released as one of the flagship titles on the Switch. It still sells regularly in the top 5 Switch games month after month after month after month after month. And again, the anticipation for Breath of the Wild 2 is huge. But again, at that time, what were you going to play after Breath of the Wild? Literally nothing. You're going to play ARMS. So again, you fast forward to when we picked up Switch number 1, Mario Odyssey was a thing. We were able to get Breath of the Wild through Boxing Week sales for like half price. And again, play it and loved it. It was a hell of a game. You had all kinds of great remasters. Skyrim was an early game that we played the hell out of because I'm a huge Skyrim person, and we're coming up on the 10th anniversary of Skyrim, which we're going to have another video about that as well. But yeah, at the time of launch and at the time that I made that video, it was a huge concern. Another thing that was a concern was the lack of sports games, because in advance of the Switch coming out, sports games were like nada. And I think I don't know if you can call this a complete W. I think there are some great sports offerings on the Switch. I think NBA 2K has done a decent job at porting over their current games to the console and making them playable, with lesser graphics and a little bit more slowness. I think you have some other different games. Golf Story is a great game. PGA 2K has put some good efforts on the console as well. Again, a little bit slower, a little bit less graphically intense. The course designer, very difficult to use because of just the nature of the console and, again, the processing power of it. Super Mega Baseball 3, one of the best baseball games ever made, in my opinion, plays phenomenal on the Switch. I think we have a huge void with hockey, and I think we have a huge void with soccer/football. I mean, soccer and football, both. American football, European football. No good football games. FIFA on the console is a complete joke. It's an embarrassment. EA should be embarrassed that they even put it on the Switch. And hockey, there's really nothing. So I think there's some room to improve there. I get it, right? Especially now that we're into the next console of gaming with the Series X, Series S, and PS5, which wasn't around when the original Switch launched. We're looking at completely different processing scales, and you can only dumb down a game so much. You only have so much development time to put into a product. So I get it. I really do get it. Now, I do hope, that we do eventually move towards a Switch Pro model with some more processing power, 4K capabilities, something that we can look at putting an NHL on or putting a Madden on, and it not being a flaming pile of shit. I think that's the key. I don't want sports games that just are there, like, for example, FIFA. FIFA is unplayable on the Switch. It's no fun. It's a reskinned roster update. It's a shell of what it is on every other platform. It's a waste of your money. I don't want that. I want good quality sports games that I can play and enjoy and take advantage of the Switch, which is, being able to be portable or being able to take it to another room quite easily. The next reason why I was not interested at launch was I was not sold on the third-party support. Now, I've turned around a bit on this one because I think third-party support on the Switch has been great. I think, again, I think the first year was really bumpy, but then I think companies really started realizing what the Switch could do, which was provide a new platform for remastered or re-released versions of their games. And I know that turns some people off. Some people look at the Switch as a Nintendo first party and everybody else is just remastered, re-released console. But that's kind of the cool part of it, because if you're a Nintendo person, I've played so many games on the Nintendo Switch that I've never played previously. Right now I'm playing Metro 2033. I picked it up a couple weeks ago. I've never played the Metro games before. I'm loving the hell out of it. It's great. It's a great game on the Switch. It plays well. Yes, I know it's an older game with a few updates and maybe some refreshed graphics, but there's a market for that. That's the thing. There is a market for that sort of stuff because you're always going to have the great Nintendo first-party titles. You look at Metroid Dread, great example. Simple, basic, classic Metroid formula, hell of a game, sold like wildfire. It's fun. But at the same time, you still have these third-party games. And yes, some third-party games are released on the Switch at the time that they're released on everything else. There is some great third-party support. So I think for me, this is probably the one of the 5 from the original video that I think I've probably turned around on the most. I do think third-party support on the Switch is better than I anticipated it being. Is it perfect? Nothing in this world is perfect. But it's definitely not a reason not to buy a Switch, at this point. The last point that I made was that I didn't need portability. Now, at the time I had a 3DS, we ended up selling the 3DS to fund the purchase of our original Switch because we knew the 3DS wasn't going to get any love. So my idea at the time was I didn't need portability. I didn't need, something that I could take on the road. I already had something that could do that. But the Switch is different. And I think I learned that really quickly. It's you don't just want to pick up your 3DS and go to another room and play. It's a smaller screen. On the Switch, you get a bigger screen. The dock is very easy to use, and that's a great option. So I think the not needing portability argument for me was based on what I knew at the time. Once I got a real-world application of the Switch, it's a different kind of portability. It's it's a higher level portability than what you could get on the 3DS and what you could get on other portable systems, you know, previous to that, like the Vita or the PSP, for example. It was I don't want to say next gen, but it was higher level gaming, console gaming in your hands. It wasn't dumbed down borderline mobile games in some situations. It was a full console experience in a portable form factor. So I think, again, once I got used to that and once I got into that, I think that was great. I think it was great to be able to, hey, I'm playing a game on the TV. All of a sudden, oh, my wife wants to watch something on the PVR. Great. I could pick it up and keep playing, which was one of the key marketing parts in the beginning and actually is super intuitive and something that you now see, you know, other companies, Steam, for example, making their Steam Deck, which I think is going to be super cool. So, in a roundabout kind of way, when we look back at the last 5 years since I made this original video saying, you know, what I thought about the reveal of the Nintendo Switch, and then ultimately the 5 reasons why I won't buy it, I don't regret either of those videos, but I do think Nintendo and the people who support that console, the companies who support that console, have done a great job at turning me around. I love my Nintendo Switch. I think it's great. I am a little bit leery of where they're going to go from here. I think now that we have Microsoft and PS into the next generation of consoles, and nobody can get the damn things, but that's neither here nor there. It's going to be interesting to see how Switch keeps up, but I still play my Switch regularly. I still think it's great. I think it's funny to look back on things that I did 5 years ago and, you know, see how things have changed. I really want to know what you guys think. Feel free to jump in the comments down below. Have you changed your opinion about the Nintendo Switch since you first saw it 5 years ago today? Let me know. Make sure you leave a thumbs up on the video as well and subscribe to the channel. And I will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.